The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Thursday, February 27th. Almost out of the shortest month of the year. We will be flipping the calendar over to March on Saturday and winding down the NHL regular season, which ends on April 18th. So not very much longer to go here until the NHL playoffs, but we've got lots of hockey games left to handicap in the meantime. And I'm here, Andy McNeil, to help you do that. And as always, joined by Nick Martin from DFO. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we got a good slate here. It's nice weather in Calgary finally, so feels like a little easier to get up early and start handicapping when it's not pitch black and minus 30.
Yeah, it's pretty nice up here in Edmonton. A little windy today, but I've still got a 4-inch block of ice on the sidewalk because the neighbor refuses to move his truck. So there's a giant shadow cast over this ice all day long. Doesn't really get any sun on it, and I'm not chipping it. I'm not going out there with a.
I
with
love
my
when
chipper.
people chip it all up when there's like 5 days of plus weather coming.
Yeah.
You just save yourself some energy here, my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna let it melt. I'm gonna let nature run its course there on the ice in front of my walk. But I've got my side of things taken care of, like always. But I mean, the state of snow removal here in Edmonton is just it's just a sad state of affairs, both by the city and by the average resident, because people are just damn lazy, man. But anyway, enough ranting about the laziness of society when it comes to snow removal, and let's get into this big NHL slate here on Thursday. Nick, I'm gonna let you pick which game we talk about first here, and we'll follow your lead.
Okay, let's start with what I think is actually one of the better games on the slate, the Blue Jackets and Red Wings Stadium Series preview, both the wild card teams, so a lot of playoff importance there. And I think it's going to be a really fun game. I feel like both these teams play a lot of pretty exciting matchups. So I like it from a prop perspective. And I think we're in agreement on a side here as well.
Yeah, let me just say I hope it's a fun game, because I chose to write about this game today because we had already talked about liking the Blue Jackets on yesterday's show. So I wrote a game preview for this one on dailyfaceoff.com, not thinking about the redundancy of the fact that I've got to write a Stadium Series preview for this weekend on DFO.
That's kind of fun though too. You take in like the first matchup, you see how it goes. It sucks when those situations happen and neither game is really interesting, but I feel like in this spot, it'll be a fun time to cover both.
Yeah, I hope so. The Blue Jackets, we are both on Columbus. Pinnacle with, I'm guessing, the best price in market right now, plus 138 for the Blue Jackets on the money line. Detroit on the other side at minus 154. Total 6, minus 102 on the over, minus 110 on the under. We're both on the Blue Jackets here at plus 138. There's really not a lot separating these two teams, Nick. I mean, obviously the Red Wings, record wise, have been a lot better than the Blue Jackets. They are 17-5-2 under head coach Todd McLellan. That's dating back to when he took over on December 27th. They overcame a 2-goal deficit against Minnesota on Tuesday to win 3-2. They've now won 9 of their last 11 games, but it's been pretty dicey as of late. 5 of those last 8 games have gone to overtime or a shootout. So hasn't exactly been easy for the Red Wings, but they have found a way to win. We talked about it on yesterday's show, and I think even on the day prior, that this team's really been kind of propped up by its power play. They've scored 8 power play goals in their last 6 games. Didn't get one against the Wild on Tuesday, but that it's been quite a streak there. 38.4% on the man advantage under Todd McLellan. So he's worked wonders for their power play. But even strength, their offense has been a lot less impressive. They still rank among the bottom 10 teams in goals per 60 minutes. Talked about this on the last show, that they've kind of improved their puck possession. They ranked 10th in shot attempt percentage under McCullen, but still, the shots that they are giving up, they've done a pretty good job suppressing shots. I think they rank 7th in shot attempts against at even strength per 60 minutes, but they're down there at ranking 20th in expected goals against per 60 minutes. So the shots that they are giving up are pretty high quality shots, and the Blue Jackets have been great on offense. I mean, only 4 teams have scored more even strength goals per 60 minutes in 2025. And they also rank among the top 10 in goals against per 60 during that stretch. Elvis Merzlikins has been a lot better over the last few months. I believe he ranks 16th out of 25 goaltenders who have faced at least 800 unblocked shot attempts since December 1st. He's saved the team 7.68 goals above expected, according to Evolving Hockey.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see this game's moved the way it has in both in terms of the total and the sides, because the totals come down, which I'm not really seeing. I still feel like you said, offensively, I really like where the Blue Jackets are at, and I think they can definitely get theirs versus the Red Wings. I don't know if we'll see Daniil Tarasov, who has been confirmed, completely shut down Detroit, though, so I'm kind of surprised the totals come down as well. And yeah, same with the sides. This was the side out of the 3 I posted yesterday that I felt most comfortable would get line movement, with the other 2 being the Ducks and Utah. And it's been the other 2 that have moved drastically more. This one's gone in the wrong direction. But I think that just makes it a better pick for us to talk about today, because I still like it. And you look at the Blue Jackets' recent sample, they've been fine, and they've been without some complete needle movers for 2 of those games. Marchenko's been, I'd say, probably the best forward in this entire game. You look at the impact he's had on both sides of the puck. Plus 33. He's been tremendous. Whatever line he's been on, whether it's been with Monahan or Fantilli since Monahan got injured, that line's been absolutely dominant. And Fabro also has looked solid since coming back after the break. So I think right now these teams are way closer than this line suggests. I think this is going to be a pretty close matchup, and I think it's a pretty good spot to back the Blue Jackets coming off 2 big wins here. I feel good about where they're at. So yeah, I think it should be a pretty competitive, tightly contested matchup.
Yeah, this is news to me with Daniil Tarasov getting the start here. It wasn't confirmed earlier when I had wrote about this game, and I had moved on to looking at some other things on the slate here. So I'm a bit disappointed in this. I mean, I know they haven't started him since January 31st, so it's been almost a month since they've turned to him in the crease. But back-to-back games against the Red Wings here with a day off in between. An important time for the Blue Jackets to try to get points against a team that they're going to be competing with for that wild card spot, most likely. And 2 wins could get them right into where the Red Wings are at. There's just 4 points separating these 2 teams. So a little bit surprised that they're going to go with Tarasov here for this game, given that they do have a day off in between. They could have easily started Merzlikins in both of these games, but
Sure.
I mean,
but
I don't know.
To defend Tarasov, though, if you look at his splits, he was getting absolutely lit up in November and December. There's some horrible outings in there. And if you lop those off, he's actually been right there with Merzlikins. So I'm guessing their thinking is probably that, in their heads, Tarasov's closer to Merzlikins than the overall number suggests. Because, yeah, Tarasov's not been very good at all. But like I said, he has been pretty good over the last month. So I'm not thrilled about it, but I think given how much the numbers move too, it's definitely not a bad move to just stick with Columbus here.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the Oilers and the Panthers. Edmonton on a season-long 4-game losing streak. They are looking to avoid losing their 5th straight here, their 3rd straight on the road, or 4th straight loss on this 5-game road trip if they can't get the win tonight. So they've dropped all 3 games on this road trip by 3 goals or more. They've been outscored 22-11 during this 4-game losing skid dating back to the February 7th game against Colorado. So Edmonton kind of finally entering a road game as an underdog here. And it's moved towards the Panthers quite a bit. So just looking at, it's obviously a small sample, but Since their loss to Colorado, Edmonton has controlled just 40.84% of the expected goals and 44.65% of the shot attempts at even strength per evolving hockey. They've been outshot 133 to 94 over the last 4 games. And yeah, those underlying numbers are, more, they resemble more of a, bottom 5 defensive team and bottom 10 offensive team, just not looking really good, looking really good right now. And they haven't covered the puck line in the last 8 games either. And they now have a league worst 20-38 record against the puck line this season. They've been decent as home or road underdogs. Sorry, they've won 4 or 5 games. The loss against Tampa Bay was their first loss as a road underdog this season. But yeah, they've just been terrible defensively. Over the last 10 games, the Oilers have allowed 3.68 expected goals per 60 minutes. That's the 5th worst rate in the league during that stretch. And yeah, they've ranked 30th in goals allowed per 60 minutes during that stretch as well. Florida, obviously without Matthew Tkachuk here, but they don't give up many shots or scoring chances. So, I mean, it's not a great spot for the Oilers to get right here, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent in terms of sides. Just I feel like obviously we do know like the Oilers are completely out of form right now. They've been disastrous, but I also feel like at some point you have to weigh that this is, still pretty close to the team that did go to the Cup final last year and has been pretty dominant this year. So yeah. I'm not quite there on backing them. You said yesterday that, without looking, you thought the opening price you would have bet the Panthers. I think that probably was the right idea because this opened as a pick 'em. But with Oilers now plus 127, I feel pretty indifferent. If anything, kind of starting to get a little tempted by just backing Oilers and hoping they figure it out.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. That's pretty close to where I'd start to consider Edmonton. Given that the Panthers don't have Tkachuk. This is a pretty crucial stretch for the Panthers coming up here. They've got a 5-game homestand starting tonight. They're just 1 point behind the Toronto Maple Leafs for the top spot in the Atlantic Division. They've been solid at home this season, 17-10-2, pretty average actually, but good enough. And it's Tkachuk's absence could kind of hinder them on offense a little bit, but their defensive play has been really good. Only the Jets have allowed fewer goals per 60 minutes since the start of 2025. And only one team, the Hurricanes, have done a better job when it comes to suppressing shots this season. So not a great sign for the Oilers. Like I said, they've failed to generate more than 25 shots on goal in any of the first 3 games on this road trip. So Florida 7-3 straight up in their last 10 regular season games versus Edmonton. They've won 3 straight regular season meetings versus the Oilers, including both home matchups or both of Edmonton's last 2 trips to Florida. They've kind of not been great. Well, they haven't been good as home favorites this season, 16-11 so far. So you'd be down around 2.5 units if you had bet on the Panthers in all of those games. But I do like a player prop here on Florida for this game, and it is Sam Bennett over 2.5 shots on goal. Pinnacle was offering the best price in market earlier. I'm not sure where it's at right at this moment. I will check on that as I kind of talk about this, but minus 125 on Bennett to go over 2.5 shots. He's always a player that I think steps up in situations where the Panthers are dealing with an injury with an important player like Tkachuk. And he already leads the Panthers in shots on goal this season, 183. And he's registered three or more shots in 65% of his games this season. But here's the real kicker. He's gone over 2.5 shots on goal in 14 of his last 15 outings. So he's really firing the puck lately. And I think with Tkachuk out of the lineup, it's probably a safe bet to assume that he's going to play pretty well tonight. And I think that this prop is a little mispriced here. Still sitting at minus 125. So I really like Bennett to go over 2.5 shots on goal at that price.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I didn't dive into the with and without Tkachuk in the lineup stats, but I know it's definitely been like that with a lot of the top forwards out where Bennett's shot volume rises a lot. So yeah, I think feels like a good time to back him.
Yeah, he's especially when Barkov's out of the lineup, he's always a guy that I like to back because he always gets that spot when Barkov's out. But I think they're going to rely on him a little bit more here tonight with Kachuk out of the lineup again, and it's going to be a tough stretch for the Panthers without Kachuk. I mean, he's not due back until the middle of March if they're lucky, I guess. And groin injuries can sometimes be a little bit funny. They don't always go, the recovery process might not always go as planned. And, who knows how much he hurt himself by trying to play through that in the Four Nations face-off. So we'll see there what happens there. But right now, he's just, I guess, enjoying life, going on the Jimmy Fallon show. But
Yeah. It's crazy to think how many injuries these guys actually must play through in the playoffs when you see the Four Nations break happen, and now we get to see guys who probably have injuries they would have played with if they're playoff games.
yeah,
Now, how many of those guys are just out? I was just thinking about that the other day, and I feel like it really tells you just how dinged up these guys all get every postseason, because that 1 week long tournament, it feels like like a quarter of all the guys that were there are dealing with something. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
yeah, that's a great point. I do want to ask you because one money line bet that I've been kind of tempted by here is the Washington Capitals, because this one has come down a whole bunch. We know Charlie Lindgren is going to get the start versus Joel Hofer for the St. Louis Blues, and the Blues, they've been pretty inconsistent this season, but they've got a little bit of a run going here the last 4 or 5 games where they've posted some pretty strong underlying numbers, and at even strength anyway. And so maybe justified here with the market kind of moving towards St. Louis, but you're seeing Washington minus 159 on the money line here is kind of tempting.
Yeah, it is pretty tempting. And I mean, they've been disrespected all year. I feel like I
Yeah,
mean, this has been the one thing that's been great for me this year, was having faith that they would be good. And how many of these spots where they've been playing someone and the number's surprisingly close, and then they just find a way. And it feels like to some extent their combination of elite goaltending and I think better than average offensive talent and chance creation is kind of getting underrated. So yeah, I'm with you. I definitely think it's caps or pass. And yeah, to talk about it again, I wrote in my Flames piece today, the Lightning with Dustin Wolf starting tonight's game compared to Vladar starting versus the Caps, the Lightning are a significantly bigger favorite than the Capitals were versus the Flames.
yeah.
So that tells you that right now the people at Pinnacle definitely have the Lightning power rated a little higher than the Capitals, because the rest situation's the same. Both teams were healthy. So I thought that was interesting looking at today's games.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Calgary, I mean, I know the Lightning are looking pretty good right now, but Flames kind of tempting as well at plus 195 on the money
Yeah,
line with
I
Dustin
settled
Wolf
on
starting.
the Flames first period money line. It was at plus 280. I think or that I should say that's the 3-way money line, so they'd have to win for you to do
Okay.
it. But I
Yeah.
kind of like the chance that they either just catch them flat or it's just the incorrect take altogether. The Flames have been really good in the first period. It's been pretty consistent. They've won the first period outright in 5 of the last 6. They had some wins over some good teams in the first period there. So strong starts have kind of been a pretty consistent theme from them, which is kind of ironic because usually it's been the opposite in Calgary. People always love to say here we're a third period team. It's kind of been the exact opposite lately. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Flames come out with kind of another good spirited start here, maybe kind of see a similar game script to Washington. So I thought at plus 280, that was a decent number to try and bank on that thinking here.
Yeah, currently at Pinnacle, the first period handicap minus 0.5 goals for the Calgary Flames, plus 277. So still a pretty attractive price there. Um, Before we, move on to, I know we talked about the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings already. I just want to make a, I guess, quick comment here on the Stadium Series coming up on Saturday at the Big House in Ohio. I saw, a lot of people. First of all, the unis, great job on the uniforms, but I saw a lot of people complain about this matchup and whatnot, and not kind of understanding why the NHL would do this. Well, first of all, there's obviously a big rivalry between these two regions in when it comes to college football, and so that it makes a lot of sense right there. But I just think it's a great setting for an outdoor game. And I know it's a gimmick, and I know we're all a little bit tired of the outdoor games. They've kind of lost their magic, I guess. But I think this is a really good opportunity for the NHL to grow the game in a spot where they need to grow the game. And I think the Big House is going to provide a really cool setting for this one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for sure watching them at home, they've lost their luster a little bit, but you can obviously see why the league keeps doing them. I still think they're great at the events to attend, the ones we've been to. And they always sell out a huge stadium. So I feel like, maybe they're not as exciting as they were when there's 5 a year, but you don't have to watch them all on TV. And I still think for the fans that get them, they're still awesome. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think from a betting perspective too, it's kind of interesting to consider how huge of an underdog the Blue Jackets are in tonight's matchup versus being priced evenly in Saturday's game. I feel like that's, I don't know, I think pretty debatable. At least I'm surprised that it's that big of a gap.
Yeah, no, and like you said, the going to the game and outdoor game in person is just a whole other experience. Going to the Heritage Classic last October between the Oilers and Flames, one of the coolest sporting experiences that I've ever had. I mean, it was unique. Probably never see it again, and I think that that's something I'm always going to remember. So definitely a great in-person experience. But let's talk about the Boston Bruins and the New York Islanders. Obviously, the Bruins looked to be flying the other night versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, and ended up giving that one away in overtime. Great performance by David Pastrnak. But it was another solid game from Morgan Geekie. He's got 15 shots over his last 4 games. You've got to worry about the Islanders and their shot blocking, but they haven't done a good job suppressing shot attempts, really. So I think you're going to see the Bruins get a fair amount of shots, at least that top line, anyways, and the top power play. So I really like Morgan Geekie over 2.5 shots on goal. He's done it in his last 4 straight games. You can get this at plus 133 at Pinnacle. And I think that's a great price on a guy who is just, flying right now with the top players on the top power play, and just being relied upon a lot. Sorry about the Boston Bruins. And I also like the over in this one. 8 of the last 10 meetings between these two teams have gone over 5.5 goals. This one's actually moved a bit at Pinnacle. So, no, it's still there at minus 120, over 5.5. Depending on what book you're looking at, you might see over 6. But I like over 5.5 at minus 120. I think this game finds a way to get there. The Islanders' goaltending and defense has not been all that good as of late. They've had, I think 5 of their last 6 games where they've allowed 4 or more goals. And of course, the Bruins have been involved in a lot of high scoring affairs as of late as well. And just the recent history between these two teams, I think a lot of people expect this to be some sort of defensive matchup. But you talked about it yesterday about how, the Bruins just went from having one of the best defenses in the league to having one of the worst. So between that and the goaltending struggles on both teams this season, I think this is a good spot to go over 5.5 at minus 120.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, both teams have built a reputation where you're, used to seeing 5.5 and still probably thinking you don't want to bet the under or the over. But yeah, lately they've both been much more high event teams than anything else. The Bruins, they're scoring a fair bit. Their offense has been fine, but their defense has fallen apart. And the Islanders are still their bottom 10 in terms of expected goals against over the last month. So I think the over's a good look here. I was definitely interested in that one as well.
You like Cole Caulfield tonight to score in the Montreal Canadiens game. Is that right?
Yes, I'm high on. I think Caulfield to score is a good bet, plus 145. I think we gave it out at the exact same number the last time the Sharks and Canadiens met, and I feel pretty good about just taking that price again in this spot. I feel like it's a pretty good shot. The Sharks continue to be one of the worst defensive teams. They've been specifically horrible on the penalty kill, which I think is great for Caulfield. Canadians' penalty kills looked really sharp since the break. I think we've seen that from a couple of these teams here too, where they got 2 practices in before the return to play and have kind of looked a little sharper in some areas, such as the power play. And I think the Canadians' top power play or top line's looking a lot better too right now. Slavkovsky kind of called himself out for his pathetic start to the year, and he's had 2 really good games since then. So I feel like we'll see that line have a really strong game in this favorable matchup, and I feel like we're getting a pretty good chance to back Caulfield getting his 28th, which would tie his career high, put him 2 away from the 30, which I personally need. Hopefully, a decent amount of people tailed that at the start of the year because if he doesn't get it now, obviously it'll be a letdown. And the Sharks have confirmed that it's going to be Georgiev in this getting the start, which I think is ideal. Vanacek's been pretty bad, but I still feel like he is the better of the 2 goalies, and he had a good start the other night. So I was happy to see that confirmation come in as well.
Yeah, the Sharks don't want that happening again. They want to give Vanacek some time to cool off here after that game versus the Jets.
1 point was way too many.
We don't need any points.
Yeah, we got to get it under control. The Blackhawks are only 3 points ahead of them right now.
Yeah. Montreal minus 207 on the money line, so not too often you see them as a big favorite. But like you said, the Sharks are just terrible right now. That said, I don't think I would entertain betting the aside in this game.
Yeah, I agree.
But
if anything, the first 2 games out of the break, the Sharks, they played the Flames pretty well. They played the Jets really well. So yeah, I think this is kind of exactly what we said about the last matchup between these teams too, where I feel like it's a good spot to back the Canadians' top line, but I'm not overly pumped on backing them as a team. I just feel like one way or another we'll see them get their offense in.
Yeah, and speaking of the Blackhawks, did you see Seth Jones' comments following that loss to Utah the other night? I mean, what took you so long, man? Like you're waiting until you're like asking for a trade before you start
He's
the
also
team. Been there for like 4 years.
He's their highest salaried player, right? And he's one of the ones who's been probably the absolute worst. So I guess I get where he's coming from a leadership perspective, but probably has to look in the mirror a little bit considering he's been one of the biggest reasons why they are this bad.
Yeah, good point. But yeah, what else? There was one other game I wanted to touch on here, but I am losing it. Oh, the Canucks and the Ducks. I know you haven't quite got to this one for Canucks Army yet, but that's okay. Pacific time start, late game, so we can do the show first. Any thoughts? Any early thoughts on this one? I know, like you said, you haven't gotten to your article yet, but what's the handicap here?
Yeah, I posted the Ducks yesterday. They were plus 130 at open, so I thought they were the clear play there. But now it's come down to plus 110, and that was after the Canucks had a good showing last night. Quinn Hughes looked to have returned in true to form. So I'm not going to be sticking with that for my article. I didn't have too many other thoughts aside from that. I think if anything, first glance, yesterday I picked Heedle to get a point for my piece, and I still think you could go over 2.5 shots at plus 110 or him to get a point as well. I like the current combination with him and Garland. I feel like that duo should continue to work well together, have a good chance to get on the Ducks here. But, I don't think you're going to want to bet on Seelovs too often here. It should be his start in all likelihood. So I think that's kind of we'll see. It wouldn't be the most shocking, I think, for the Canucks to actually go back-to-back with Lankinen here, given what this game means, where they're at in their season. But I do think that situation's one to watch. But yeah, from a sides perspective now, I'm pretty neutral.
Yeah, they got back into the second wildcard spot with that win over the Kings last night. Just 1 point ahead of the Calgary Flames, though. And the Flames do have a game in hand. Utah, 4 points back of the Canucks. And the Canucks have a game in hand on the Utah Hockey Club. So Utah in action tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, the Wild without Joel Eriksson-Ek and Kirill Kaprizov. So, and it might be a Marc-Andre Fleury start. So,
yeah, I've been watching to see if there's something else because Utah opened at minus 130 yesterday. I thought that price was bad, but they were still consensus minus 130 yesterday. Now they're minus 185, and I'm pretty surprised. I don't know if that's just the way the market views it or what, because that even to me seems like a pretty crazy adjustment.
Yeah, I agree. But Utah's been catching some pretty heavy steam, and exactly on the other side, the exact same, the opposite for Minnesota. They've been getting faded by the market quite a bit
Yep.
as of late. So
And Utah's good right now. Like, I really
yeah,
think I was cringing listening to the Jets broadcast yesterday. They're talking about the playoff race. They didn't even mention Utah once, give them any hope. They just talked about how it's completely down to the Blues, Flames, and Canucks. And I think a healthy Utah, like I've said, is the best of those teams. They have to close some ground here, but I would be betting them to win a series versus those other teams. So we'll see. Maybe it's enough time for them if they can actually stay healthy, because I do think they're looking pretty good right now.
yeah, we will see. But that pretty much does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. I guess we could quickly recap our bets here. Oh, you still have a prop, and I totally forgot about that.
That's okay. It's a pretty quick
It's a
one.
it's a game that you kind of want to gloss over. The Flyers and the Penguins, both teams pretty much out of the playoff race at this point. Although not technically out of it, but yeah, it's pretty. It doesn't have the same appeal that a Flyers Penguins matchup has had in previous seasons. So I'll let you talk about your prop for this one.
Yeah, this one's a lot about just pride for the Pens, because I think the Flyers have beat them 3 straight already. But yeah, Michkov, we gave this one out in the matchup between these teams on Tuesday. My thinking was that it was a good time to back him coming out of the break. Feels like he's, clearly back in favor with Tortorella. He's skating on a second line that's been really good with Tippett and Couturier, and they dominated the Pens the other night. Michkov had 2 points, and I think with price is still at -105. The best number available in Thursday's matchup was +102. I think this is definitely still worth the play. I want to keep riding Michkov while he's playing like this. We kind of talked about how, the fact that he has been benched and had his ice time cut significantly has made him a tough bet at times this year. But I also think it's working in favor of us right now, because I feel like if he was in this role and getting the minutes he's gotten lately, we probably wouldn't be seeing this kind of number again versus the Penguins. So yeah, I think it's a good spot to keep backing him while he's hot.
Yeah, great point. So in addition to the Michkov prop, what else do you like?
I've got, let's see if we can keep it all tight here. The Flames to win the first period, 3-way. You could play it safe and go even if you want, but I'm trying to bank on the upside of the idea that, it's either going to be maybe a bit of a flat start for the Lightning or not. So I like that. The Blue Jackets money line at +140. Caulfield to score, Michkov to get a point, and then I think that's it out of ones that are still out there at bettable numbers.
Yeah, and I'm also on the Blue Jackets earlier from +138, but now with this Tarasov news, it looks like things are moving a bit towards the Red Wings a little bit more here. And I am also on Sam Bennett to go over 2.5 shots at -125. Morgan Geekie of the Boston Bruins to go over 2.5 shots at +133. And Boston and the Islanders to go over 5.5 goals at -120. So there are 4 plays for Thursday from myself, and Nick has a handful of plays as well. And we've been kind of rolling here this week. So let's hopefully keep it going strong into the weekend. But I guess until next week, we will see you on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time right here on the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel. But until then, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.